Some people would rather want to take high dosages of melatonin orally instead of a suppository or transdermal plaster. They think, taking it orally would be more handy. They believe, all you would do is, just take that 3 mg melatonin you have for sleeping and multiply this. But does it really work like that? Well, let's dive into this a little deeper. There seems to be quite some confusion about this. Today we want to talk about the bioavailability of melatonin. Stay till the end and see what official research papers of NIH and PubMed have to say on this topic. Let's dive right into it. In the case of orally given melatonin, this is easily explained. It enters your bloodstream fast, stays there not very long, meaning it has a short half-life. You think the faster, the better? Well, not quite. Both, going fast into your blood and staying there for a short time, both are not your friends. We will explain to you in a minute why. Bioavailability means that the molecule has reached your cells and is able to do its magic right there. And this is a long and hard way for most molecules. First, let's see what the experts say, and then we compare this with the research papers from PubMed. High dosages of melatonin are also taken in the evening, but for both better sleep and anti-aging. In the following you can see Dr. Enrico Edinger. He speaks about taking 300 mg of melatonin. It cannot be taken orally, because the first pass effect of the liver will get rid of only 10 mg within a few minutes. Then we have Dr. Klinghardt, who seems to be also a huge fan of high dosages of melatonin. He uses it for many diseases, and he also states that it cannot be taken orally. Have a listen.
Here's the big one I wanted to almost spend the last few minutes with, the melatonin. Melatonin is completely misunderstood and underrated. Melatonin is the principal antioxidant used in the brain and in the central nervous system. It is not glutathione. Yeah, it's not all the antioxidants that people talk about. It is melatonin. And melatonin is produced in every cell in the body, but in the brain the predominant place is the pineal gland. But our whole gut microbiome, when it's healthy, produces about 400 to 4,000 times more melatonin than the brain does. But it does it at noontime. And so there is a German researcher who heals pretty much any neurological disease just with one tool, and that is melatonin. But this is not 2 or 3 milligrams. This is 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, up to 6,000 milligrams. The ALS, we give 6,000. With most the children get 80 milligrams. That's a working dose. Most adults need a lasting dose of about 300. It's the anti-aging tool for the older folks here. I notice a few of you are over 60, which I'm always happy. I'm still one of the oldest here in the room, I think, so I can, and compared to the other speakers, I look a lot wiser because I lost my hair, What do these young whippersnappers know that still have hair? They haven't worried as much as I have. They don't. So we give it transdermally. So the transdermal melatonin is given between dinner and bedtime, an hour or two before sleep time. Does hardly change your sleep. Most people don't feel any change initially. But what it does is phenomenal. Those of you know a little bit of biochemistry, the worst thing that happens in inflammation.
Next we have another expert on high dosages of melatonin. His name is Dr. John Lawrence. He says that orally taken melatonin is only 2.5% absorbed. Too good what he says about his own HRV, heart rate variability, while on high dosages of melatonin, and what the experience of the young lady was right from the first day and thereafter of using a high dosage melatonin suppository. Have a listen.
So I kind of want to, one of the things that we've really been excited about is this emergence of the conversation around HRV, heart rate variability, and how this is really a good indicator of general health, and how people need to be paying more attention to this. You've talked a lot about melatonin and how that impacts positively the HRV. I'd love for you to dive into that.
Yeah, let's do that. So, what I find fascinating is if you look at the graph of melatonin, so melatonin and age, right? You have so much melatonin as a child, and then it really dives down. By the time you're in your 60s, it's like you got almost nothing, right? So if you look at the average heart rate variability, it's a very similar graph. If you compare, in fact, in my book, I put them both together, and I have a whole section talking about this very subject. But to me, I almost wonder if the melatonin might be the variable there. And obviously, I don't have any concrete proof, but I can tell you that when people see my heart rate variability scores, they can't believe it. I mean, I get sometimes 70, 75, and I'm 51.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's one thing that I've noticed. I think so I've been wearing my Whoop for a couple months now, so it has a really good indicator on who I am, and I'm very familiar with my body according to that data. And my HRV was on average 55, like just across the board. That's I kind of vary around there. But I remember, was it the first night that I took the suppository? It went up to 122 the next day, and that was the highest I've ever seen it go. But now consistently my HRV is 75 average, so up 20 points more than what I was the last 5 months of my life,
just by putting something in your butt.
Just by putting something in my butt.
Cool.
And for those that are kind of squirming and they're you don't have to put anything in your butt to take Sandman and to do even high dose melatonin. But I will tell you, regular oral melatonin is only 2.5% absorbed.
Well, if 2.5% absorption is enough for you when taking melatonin orally, that is fine. At least you would have a little antioxidant protection, and it is certainly better than nothing. But don't expect any wonders. Your pineal gland will not be activated, and that is where the magic comes from. We want a slow absorption of a high dosage of melatonin, the slower the better, because we want to activate the pineal gland as long as possible. And this is done by a suppository or a transdermal patch only. As we know, melatonin is prolonging life. It is in every cell of your body, as well as every animal has it, and plants too. And plants activate it when there is a real danger, like flooding or a drought. We as humans don't need it for floodings and droughts. We need it to fight off hundreds of diseases that have its origins in our lifestyle and which are a consequence of our modern life. What do official research papers of NIH or PubMed say? They come to the conclusion that about 15% of melatonin taken orally can be utilized. 85% gets destroyed. Doesn't that sound pretty much like what the gentleman above suggest? We will put a link down in the description of this very important paper. How about taking it sublingual under your tongue? In fairness, sublingual can increase these numbers a little bit. But it is only marginal. But this slight advantage of sublingual administration vs oral administration has also a big disadvantage. The absorption rate is much faster, and that is not what you want. What you want is a slow absorption of high doses of melatonin throughout the night. This is where the magic happens, and this is when your pineal gland gets activated. You don't want a peak and then again nothing.